All right, 9. So today we're going to take a look at exactly what we took a look at last day, except for in this case, we're actually going to be doing some algebra along with solving for our angles. So if we take a look at this polygon right here, 5 sides, it's a pentagon. We need to figure out what all the angles are. So all the questions say determine the values of the missing variables and the measures of the unknown angles and show all your work and state the theorem used. So here we have 5 unknown angles. So the way we can go about this is the exact same way that we go about it if we actually know the angles, except for the first thing that we have to do is figure out what x is. So what I know is I know that the theorem for the sum of the angles of a polygon says that if I add all of these up, it's going to be equal to n minus 2, where n is the number of sides, times 180. So I'm going to do x plus 5 plus x plus 10 plus x minus 14 plus 2x minus 73 plus x is equal to, and in this case, n is 5, so 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So 5 minus 2 times 180. And this theorem is the sum of the angles of a pentagon theorem. I'm just going to put that right there. All right, so now I can go ahead and solve. So first I'm going to get rid of my brackets because there's an imaginary 1 here. It's like everything is being multiplied by positive 1, so that means all of my numbers are going to stay the same. Plus 10 plus x minus 14 plus 2x minus 73 is equal, plus x is equal to 3 times 180. So now I can go ahead and add my like terms. So I have 1x, another 2x, 3x, 5x, and 6x. So I have 6x, and then I have 5 plus 10 is 15, minus 14 is 1, minus 73 is negative 72, and that's going to equal 3 times 180, which is 540. So now I can go ahead and solve in the way that I normally do. So I'm going to add that 72 to both sides. So 540 plus 72 is 612. And so now I'm going to divide both sides by 6. So x is equal to 102 degrees. So I know what x is, but I don't know what the angles are. So now I have to calculate all of my angles. So here I know this one, right, is going to be 102 degrees. So the next one, I have x plus 5. So that's going to be 102 plus 5, or 107 degrees. And then I have x plus 10. So that's going to equal 102 plus 10, or 112 degrees. Then I have x minus 14. And so that's going to equal 102 minus 14, or 88 degrees. And then lastly, I have 2x minus 73, which is going to be 2 times 102 minus 73. So 204 minus 73, which is 131 degrees. So as you can see, nothing changed because I only have one variable here. It was actually really easy. I could just set up my equation and then solve. All right, so moving on to B. So B says, so B, I have different theorems, obviously. And so I actually have x's and y's, and so that's going to cause me a problem because when I set up my equations, just like in the previous one, I want to make sure that I only have one variable. So that means I need to figure out if there's anything on here that will allow me to set up an equation with only one variable. And one of the things that I notice is that I have, before I worry about this part, I have this lovely C rule. Okay, so I have the C rule here, and I know that my theorem for the C rule, also called the co-interior angle theorem, is that this plus this has to equal 180 degrees. Okay, so I know that, and I'm just going to do the work down here, that 2x plus 6 plus 4x plus 36 has to equal 180. So I can go ahead now and multiply that imaginary 1 through, so I get 4x plus 36, and that equals 180. Actually, I really should call it the invisible one. And then I have 2x plus 4x is 6x, and 36 plus 6 is 42. And that also equals 180 degrees. And so now I can go ahead and subtract 42 from both sides. And so I have 6x is equal to 138. And then I can divide both sides by 6. And I end up with x is equal to 23 degrees. So now I can go ahead and figure out what these two angles are. So I know that 4x plus 36 is going to be equal to 4 times 23 plus 36. And when I go ahead and put all of that into my calculator, I get 128 degrees. So this is 128 degrees. And so here I have 2x plus 6. So that's going to be 2 times 23 plus 6, which is 46 plus 6, or 52 degrees. So this is going to be 52 degrees. Well, I also have an x over here. So that means then that I know that 2x is going to equal 2 times 23, or 46 degrees. So this one is 46 degrees. So now that I've done that, I can take a look, and I actually have enough to solve for y, because using my supplementary angle theorem, I know that 46 plus 6 plus 52 has to equal 158. So I know that 46 plus y plus 52 has to equal 180 degrees based on my supplementary angle theorem. So I can go ahead and solve this. So I know that I have y plus 98 equals 180. I'm going to go ahead and subtract that 98 from both sides. And so y is equal to 82 degrees. So this one is 82 degrees. So my x is equal to 23, and then my angles, so therefore the unknown angles are 46 degrees, 82 degrees, 52 degrees, and 128 degrees. I probably should have done the same thing up here when I was doing this one, so let's just go ahead and write that therefore statement. The unknown angles oh, I never wrote this one here, the 131 degrees. So the unknown angles are 102 degrees, 107 degrees, 112 degrees, 88 degrees, and 131 degrees. Okay, so let's take a quick look at question C. So C says it's more of a word problem here. It says one angle is 12 degrees less than half of another. So if the angles are complementary, what is the measure of each angle? And so there's a couple of keywords here. One, we know that the angles are complementary. So that means we know if they're complementary. That's the complementary angle theorem. And if we go to and take a look at our complementary angle theorem, in case we've forgotten it, we know that the complementary angle theorem says that x plus y has to equal 90 degrees. So when I'm looking at this question, I know that I'm going to have two angles and they're going to add up to 180 degrees. So let's go ahead and set up some variables for those angles. So we're going back, we have to use our let statement. So we're going to let x or represent, sorry. We're going to let x represent the measure of one angle. Okay, so, and that was right here, we know that we have to find the measure of each angle. So there's two angles, so we have to figure out what the other angle is. Well, we know that one of the angles is 12 degrees less than half of the other. So we have half of another angle, and then we have 12 degrees less. So we're just going to take that English and put it into math. So I'm going to let then, so it's half of another angle, so 1/2 x, and then it's 12 degrees less, so subtract 12. And that's going to represent the measure of a second angle. So it's very important to always set up your let statements and then to set up your equation. So now we know that when we add these two angles together, right? So this is angle 1 and this is angle 2. And if we think of that visually, we take a look at it here, right? We have our 90-degree angle, and then we have our we have our x, say, and then we have our 1/2 x minus 12. So we can go ahead and finish this question. So we have x plus 1/2 x minus 12 is equal to 90 degrees. So I can go ahead and add these up. So I have x and 1/2 x. So that means I have 3 halves x minus 12 is equal to 90. So now I'm going to add 12 to both sides. So I have 3 halves x is equal to 102. Whoops, I keep throwing those. It doesn't matter if I do or don't really. Then what I'm going to do, right, is this is like, if you remember, it's like 3x over 2 is equal to 102. So now I'm going to take this 2 to the other side. So I have 3x is equal to 2 times 102, which is 204. And then x is equal to 204 over 3. And when I put that into my calculator or my brain, I then, here, let me just draw a straight line here so we can continue the work. X is equal to 68 degrees. So that's what X is. So, wow, it looks like these answers are wrong. So let's just go ahead and change those. This should be 68 degrees, and we'll see what this one is. So then my second angle then is 1/2 x minus 12. So I have 1/2 x minus 12. And so that's going to equal 1/2 of 68 minus 12. And 1/2 of 68 is 34. So we're going to do 0.5 times 68 minus 12. And I get 22 degrees. So this would be 22 degrees. So therefore, the angles are 22 degrees and 68 degrees. And we can always check to make sure we've got the right answer. So why don't we just do that really quickly? We know that they're supposed to both add up to 90. So if we do 22 plus 60, 20, well, let me put that down. You can't even see that. 22 plus 68, I get 90. And then I know that if I multiply as I did here, right? So that meets the criteria. Anyway, nines, I'm going to do D and E on another video. So stay tuned. Hope that helps.